What's up, guys? Today I want to briefly talk about how, in my opinion, debates sort of end in a lot of scenarios, if not all scenarios. And basically, I feel like whenever someone's debating something logically, um, even if someone logically proves it, especially when it's something that's very complex, you rarely get those situations where the other guy's just like, you know what, you are absolutely right, you've proved it, I'm going to accept your decision, let's move on. No, one could reason that there's always ego involved, and that's why movements and changes take a long period of time, because even when people know that they're wrong or they logically have been changed, it's very hard for them to just immediately on the spot switch that perspective. So I think with people in general, you should have patience, and you shouldn't get to that level. You should avoid getting angry and outraged when they don't immediately agree with you, even though you've sort of clearly proved it. And just, try over a long period of time, and if your argument is correct, over a long period of time, they'll eventually start to put away the ego. But I feel like a lot of people sort of screw up on this fact, and they get their ego in the mix, and it's on both sides. The person who has sort of realized that they're wrong, or the person who is angry that this guy won't accept it even though you've presented it perfectly, and that can lead to a lot of problems. So just be patient. A good example is how parents talk to children. I've witnessed a decent amount of times how various parents will instill these principles, and they'll try and reason with their children, and the children will be like, no, no, no way. But then the next day, or as soon as they're talking to their friends, the child has the parents' views. And sometimes it truly is simply a battle. It's a battle of, like, the child is actually siding with the parent, but has been influenced dramatically by his or her friends, to the point where she's sort of debating against her parent at home, but siding with the parent when she's with her friends. And she's sort of, getting pulled back and forth and trying to find a middle ground, because at the end of the day, sometimes they want to please both groups, or they maybe they don't want to please anyone, but they respect and they acknowledge that there's pros and cons to both arguments. Now, let's step aside from the theoretical stuff, because we know in reality a lot of situations are not so crystal clear, and it's not like math where things can just be proven with logic. And even math itself, it's not that easy. You can't just prove things so quickly with logic. And therefore there's a lot of controversial topics that may have no right answers by their very definition, or just there's a hard, it'll take some time to solve. One of those things would be like slavery and discrimination and segregation. Now, these things were commonplace and accepted like it was nothing just a few hundred years ago. And there were times, like, literally, segregation that was ended not so long ago. And it's crazy to think that at the time, the great majority of people thought that it was right, or that there's nothing wrong with it. And so the whole idea with logic and what's right and wrong, it's a huge blurred mix. And even nowadays we got debates with GMOs and so forth, and one can reason we got to argue it through, or some people might say it'll just naturally progress to what's right eventually. That may not be true if people don't step up to the plate. And so I guess I'm just going to leave it with my brief opinion on GMOs based on my very limited knowledge on the topic. So don't get outraged if you don't like my opinion. GMOs, they stand for genetically modified organisms, I think. But mainly it's for vegetables and so forth. They make it so that they're bigger, they're more productive. Granted that sometimes they may taste like cardboard, but from what I heard, it's not what you guys think. It's not like cloning or anything like that. In reality, technologically, we're not even close. People who have little knowledge on this, they think it's some sort of sci-fi thing. We are very far from that point in terms of genetic modification. From what I've heard so far, the debate is whether to put GMO labels on vegetables at the supermarket and so forth. And some people are concerned because this is like it looks weird, like people aren't going to buy it, and there's this stigma behind it. But when you look at the science behind it, like some of it is just selective breeding, which is like it's not really tampering with the genetics. It's really just breeding the good tasting fruit with the other good tasting fruit so that their offspring are even more good tasting. It's really not really tampering with the actual genetic material. However, there's that other fashion where it's actually tampering with the material, and I don't know too much about that, but I do think that it should be tested to the point where we know what the consequences are, and I don't think the general public nor I am informed enough about this. I mean, we can do our research through articles, but like how far can that get us? And we need to know the consequences. What if we find out that honestly these genetically modified fruits, like there's truly not much that can happen? And I feel like that may be the case because like it's not like nuclear where it'll like cause you to have cancer or morph you into a zombie. I highly doubt we're at that level. Technologically, I guarantee you it's probably something like elementary. Like they're going into the DNA and they're activating a few proteins so that the plant grows a little bigger, the tomato is a little bigger. It's something like that with like maybe small slight symptoms and so forth. But I'm not expert on the topic, and this has spurred me to learn more about it. So my whole thing is like we need to be more informed, and if we find out that there truly isn't that many consequences or any consequences at all, then the horrendous stigma behind it may just be poppycock and put forth by too many sci-fi movies. But on the other hand, if we do find out that, hey, these genetically modified things have that 1% chance of, sprouting an extra head on yourself, then we should be concerned. But we need to be more informed and really test this out and figure it out. But based on what I know so far, I highly doubt that anything like this even has the potential to cause that much damage. I mean, I guarantee you, like, nothing has that sort of power that we know of yet, where we can like easily modify it and then eat it and it'll like sprout a head on us or something. That's just not like we're not that advanced enough to even cause that sort of folly. Nor do I think that Mother Nature has that potential. And I think people are just a little bit too disillusioned by science fiction movies, and they think this is all possible when in reality we're just like messing a little bit with the proteins on a very like simplistic level. From what I've read, we are not that advanced to do much yet. So that's all I gotta say. And honestly, there's been tons of argument about this. Whether we should do this stuff to make the fruit a little bigger and taste a little better, and I'm going to do some more research on the topic. I'll see you guys later.